Good morning. We begin today with the published version of the Thanksgiving Address, which is a traditional beginnings of the Potawatomi people when it was published by John Stokes and Kanawi Henton. Today, we have gathered and we look upon the faces we see around us and see the cycles of life continue. We have been given the duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now, let us bring our minds together as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now, our minds are one. We are thankful to our Mother Earth, for she gives us everything that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her, and it gives us joy that she still continues to care for us, just as she has from the beginning of time. To our Mother, we send thanksgiving, love, and respect. And now our minds are one. Native people continue this litany of thanksgiving, remembering in turn the waters, the fish life, the plant life, berries, and the three sisters of corn and beans and squash, medicinal herbs, trees, animal life, birds, the four winds, our grandfather sun, our grandmother moon, the thunder beings. They continue thanking the tides and the stars, the enlightened teachers, and then they finish, rounding back to the beginning, saying, we now turn our thoughts to the Creator, or Great Spirit, and send greetings and thanks for all the gifts of creation. Everything we need to live a good life is here on Mother Earth. For all the love that is still around us, we gather our minds as one and send our choicest words of greetings and thanks to the Creator. And now, our minds are one. I invite you to light your chalices home as we begin our time together.
As we light our chalice, we share our church covenant. We promise to listen and learn together with compassion, curiosity, and an open mind. Engage in creating a warm and welcoming community. Work together and beyond our walls to address social and environmental challenges. And with our time, talent, and treasure, support our church and its mission.
Thanks, Nancy. Good morning. I'm Reverend Pam Romancic. My pronouns are she and hers, and I serve the Unitarian Church in Hinsdale, Illinois. This is an amazing, green, wonderfully beautiful spring morning, and we gather together today to remember our connection to the earth from which we come. We honor our Mother Earth this day, this week, this month, and we lean into the deepest truth of our being. We are connected. We belong to the whole of life. We are one. The theme for this month is mindfulness, and today we practice being mindful of our origins in the rich, dark earth below our feet. But first, a little bit of housekeeping. Besides the regular weekly meditation group, the Wise Elders, the breakfast groups, this week there's a building tech meeting today at 1 o'clock. The animal ministry meeting has been postponed until May, when they will actually meet in person, socially distanced, of course. There are lots of things going on around this church, so I encourage you always to visit the website and follow us on social media. The Touchstone has lots of information about upcoming events and opportunities, and they can all be found on the website. If you have news to share or something to submit, please send it by the 20th of each month, and note that those things submitted for news and notes should go to social media at hinsdaleunitarian.org, and that the old office email is mainly reserved for building issues. Next, we'll join next week. We're going to be joining many Unitarian Universalist churches across the state of Illinois for a second UU revival. We'll be remembering our connection with the wider world and taking a collective breath. There will be a different Zoom link than the one we use every Sunday, but it will be in your news and notes and the email, which goes on Sunday morning and on the website. So just make sure you don't always click the one you usually use, because it'll be different. If you're a new visitor today and you'd like to receive regular communications, you can leave your information in the chat box, or you can click the contact button on the website. And if you enjoyed today's service, I hope you might share it with somebody Who would appreciate a little bit of love and maybe even inspiration? All of our old services from last year can be found in the church's YouTube page. After the service, everybody is invited to stay for a brief virtual coffee hour where we'll just talk about what we heard today, or catch up with one another, or just see what's going on. Maybe meet some new people. A little later, we'll hold space for prayer and meditation. So if you or someone you know is in need of support, please do let us know. You can type your intention in all caps in the chat box, or you can call me on my cell phone or contact me via email. We thank Linda Carlin today for being our worship associate, and to our regulars, Jamie, Jean, Suzanne, and Paula Dvorak for running our coffee hour. This is an amazing team of people, and they all work together to bring you a service each week. Now, please feel free to sing along as we share our opening hymn, Morning Has Broken.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's dew fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Good morning, everyone. This week on our Faithful Journey, we will highlight our seventh principle: respect the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. This week, we will learn about the Change the World Kids, an organization started by the children of the North Universalist Chapel Society in Woodstock, Vermont. Their focus is on working together to protect many different parts of the interconnected web of all life. Their motto is, "No one can do everything, but everyone can do something." Throughout their work, they remember the ripple effect. When one person takes action, even in a small way, that action can send ripples into the world around us, just as ripples in a lake. The very first project of the Change the World Kids was to start a tree nursery in Costa Rica to help make sure there would be forest to support migratory birds of Vermont. Based off this story and our discussion for the week, the signpost for our faithful path is protect the earth. I wonder what kind of ripples you can make in the world. Bye. Enjoy your week.
From Mind in the Waters by Joan McIntyre. We have for too long accepted a traditional way of looking at nature's creatures, which has blinded us to their incredible essence, and which has made us incomparably lonely. It is our loneliness, as much as our greed, which can destroy us. There was a time in our culture not long ago when the essential role of men and women was to nurture and protect each other, to be the caretakers of life and earth. At that time, when the sun sparkled on the sea of our imagination, especially as it sparkled on the sea herself, we thought of our world and each other in ways which were life-venerating and death-respecting. The porpoise school that weaves its history protectively around its common existence, the whales that tune body and mind in a continuous awareness of life, are not symbols of an alien mythology. They are evocative of what once was the core of human relationships. Animals were once, for all of us, teachers. They instructed us in ways of being and perceiving that extended our imaginations, that were models for additional possibilities. We watched them make their way through the intricacies of their lives with wonder and with awe. Seeing the wolf pick his delicate way across the snowy forest floor, the eyes of the owl hold the image of the mouse. The dark shape of the whale break the surface of the sea, reminded us of the grand sweep and diversity of life, of its infinite possibilities. The connection of humans with totemic animals was an essential need to ally ourselves with the power and intelligence of non-human life, to absorb some of the qualities bestowed by the evolutionary process on other creatures. Whales and dolphins, all cetaceans, are intensely interesting to us now. They seem to speak for a form of consciousness we are beginning to re-explore in our inner natures. They help us chart our interior wilderness. We can hear whales singing. If we pay attention and let them live, perhaps we will hear them speak in their own accents, their own language. It would be an extravagant reward to experience, by empathy, a different band of reality. We are animals of the land. They are animals of the oceans. We have hands to move and mold the things of the earth. They do not. But with an intelligence imagined as grand as ours, what do they do? What can they do with mind imprisoned in all that flesh and no fingers for releasing it? I have stroked and swum with and looked at these creatures and felt their essence rise to meet me like perfume on a spring day. Touched by it, I felt gentler myself, more open to the possibilities that existed around me. There may be only one way to begin to learn from them, and that is to begin. We would not be harmed by returning to the roots which once nourished us, which still unseen link together all life that lives and feels and thinks and dies on this, our common earth.
Hi, I'm Dave Lloyd, member of the Green Sanctuary Committee. From the beginning of our environmental work at UCH, we've had the help and support of Faith in Place. Faith in Place is an organization that works with houses of worship on environmental action, over 350 churches all over Illinois. They give people of all faiths the ability to be leaders in caring for the earth. They help educate, connect, and advocate for healthier communities. They bring together Black and white churches, mosques and synagogues, UU churches and Baptist churches on environmental and social justice work. Working with Faith in Place and with other churches has helped us keep up the energy and come up with new ideas. To this day, we're meeting with Faith in Place and people at other churches just about every month. We've benefited so much from our association with Faith in Place over the years. This month, we're returning the favor. Thank you for your support of Faith in Place.
Hello, I'm Mike Pabian, serving as secretary on the board of the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. This is the time in our service when we remember the good things this church does in the world. and invite you to help support our work. But it is important that I first thank you all so much for your wondrous generosity in continuing to support our congregation in these trying times. I know that for many of us, it cannot be easy. It warms my heart that our church home has found a special place in your hearts as well. We are a community of folks who are always learning about the world and finding ways to help make it just a little bit kinder. We share our space with many outside nonprofit groups, offer connection and inspiration to our community, help our children learn values to sustain lives of meaning and purpose, and work in many ways to create a more just society. Your support makes all of this possible. You can provide that support by going to our website, www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, and clicking on the donate button, or by simply sending your check to the church at 17 West Maple Street in Hinsdale. Thank you. Now, even though we can't be together right now, I invite you to say our offering words together. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with the people around us, and with all the world.
Hello, folks. This is the time when we just take a moment to relax, to remember ourselves, remember our wholeness and our connection to the deep well of life. As we sit in gathered silence, we're going to hold all those intentions for anyone who is suffering and those who are celebrating as well. So please type any intentions you have in all caps in the chat box right now. This morning, we remember Tony Taylor as he continues to care for his beloved Mona at home. And remember everyone who is struggling, who may be worried about getting a second vaccine today, or worried about getting the first vaccine, worried that they might never get a vaccine, or celebrating that they feel like they finally can rest and breathe a minute. Now, I have a video to share with you. So I invite you to take a moment to relax, take a deep breath in, a releasing breath out, and allow tensions to flow out of your body down into the rich, dark earth below us. We are all part of one another by Barbara Deming. Spirit of love that flows against our flesh and sets it trembling, moves across it as across grass, erasing every boundary that we accept, and swings the doors of our lives wide. This is the prayer I sing. Save our perishing earth. Spirit that cracks our single selves. Eyes fall down, eyes. Hearts escape through the bars of our ribs to dart into other bodies. Save this earth. The earth is perishing. This is the prayer I sing. Spirit that hears each one of us, hears all that is, listens, hears us out. Inspire us now. Our own pulse beats in every stranger's throat, and also there within the flowered ground beneath our feet. And teach us to listen. We can hear it in water, in wood, and even in stone. We are earth of this earth. We are bone of its bone. This is the prayer I sing. For we have forgotten this, and so the earth is perishing. Let us rest for a moment in silence and let all the concerns of this morning remind us that God is just another name for the life force in which we live and breathe and have our being. We can never be separated from this deepest truth of life. Take the stillness with you and let it fill your week. Amen.
We all live on planet Earth. We all play on planet Earth. I love you, Earth, my planet Earth. I'll keep you clean. I'll care for you. We all sing on planet Earth. We all dance on planet Earth. I love you, Earth, my planet Earth. I'll keep you clean. I'll care for you. We all breathe from planet Earth. We all eat from planet Earth. I love you, Earth, my planet Earth. I'll keep you clean. I'll care for you. We all live on planet Earth with our friends on planet Earth. I love you, Earth, my planet Earth. I'll keep you clean. I'll care for you. I love you, Earth, my planet Earth. I'll keep you clean. I'll care for you.
In honor of Earth Day this week, Reverend Pam asked me to share a story in this week's service. I found this wonderful book called Thank You, Earth by April Pulley Sayer, and I thought it would be fun, instead of using the pictures from the book, if I inserted my own photos from all of my family's adventures out in nature. So I hope you enjoy. Thank You, Earth, a poem by April Pulley Sayer. Photos from the Fodor family's adventures. Dear Earth, thank you for water and those that float, for slippery seaweed and stones. Thank you for mountains and minerals that strengthen bills and bones. Thank you for air, even fishy whale breath. Thank you for colors and coastlines and beach. Thank you for tiny and towering, for trees and vines that reach. Thank you for curves and prickles and parallels, for patterns and all shapes that repeat. Thank you for leaves and stems and buds, for plant parts we can eat. Thank you for sounds and storms and seasons, for struggles and pale in-betweens. Thank you for rays and radials and overlapping greens. Thank you for Jumble's ingredients for soil and bright new growth in spring. Thank you for all who crawl. Yes, all. Thank you for sunsets, for edges eyes can roam. Thank you for beginnings, for endings, for lifetimes. Thank you for being our home.
From Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I once knew and loved a man who lived most of his life in the city, but when he was dragged off to the ocean or the woods, he seemed to enjoy it well enough, as long as he could find an internet connection. He had lived in a lot of places, so I asked him where he found his greatest sense of place. He didn't understand the expression. I explained that I wanted to know where he felt most nurtured and supported. What is the place you understand best? That you know best and knows you in return? He didn't take long to answer. My car, he said. In my car. It provides me with everything I need in just the way I like it. My favorite music, seat position fully adjustable, automatic mirrors, 2-cup holders. I'm safe. And it always takes me where I want to go. Years later, he tried to kill himself in his car. He never grew a relationship with the land, choosing instead the splendid isolation of technology. He was like one of those little withered seeds you find in the bottom of the seed packet, the one who never touched the earth. I wonder if much that ails our society stems from the fact that we have allowed ourselves to be cut off from that love of and from the land. It is medicine for broken land and empty hearts. Thus ends the reading.
Thank you, Linda. I think there is deep truth in that reading that you found for us this morning. Because even as we look out on such a beautiful spring morning, I think many of us agree that our world is broken. I mean, how else can you explain the 147th mass killing in 2021? There have been 11 mass murder events since January in this country. Our country is not right. What is going on? We turn on the news and we can't even believe our eyes sometimes. Today is Earth Day. But as far as we can see, the Earth, our planet, our home is bleeding. And it feels hollow to celebrate Earth Day. It's like saying, yay for the Titanic as it slowly sinks deep into ocean depths. I mean, celebrating is important. There is much that is beautiful and joyful, but I don't think that celebrating is the order of this day. As we look out upon our nation covered in the blood of so many innocents, killed by lone shooters, killed by gang members, killed by police officers, we have to continually asking why? What is happening? What is going on here? Why are people killing one another at such an alarming rate in our country? You know, the United States rate of intentional murder stands at 5.3 people per every 100,000 people. It's higher than any other high-income country in the entire world. It's also higher than Lebanon and Rwanda and Azerbaijan. It's twice as high as Canada, 3 times as high as the United Kingdom, Germany, or the Netherlands. We live in a country where violence has become so common that the killings begin to all blend together into one being ongoing story of the lone, usually white man, shooting and killing a whole bunch of people. Why? And what does this have to do with Earth Day? Well, my hunch is that it's part of a much larger issue that we're all in the midst of. It's a brokenness embedded in the unsustainable story that America has been telling for generations. It's a story of conquest, a story of wealth and monetary gain at any cost. Our ancestors came here, some for religious freedom for themselves, but many of the people, maybe even most of the people that actually came to this new world came here to make their fortune. And contrary to the ways of the indigenous people that they encountered when they arrived, the colonizers saw everything in this rich and beautiful land as a resource to be turned into gold, as a thing, as as something to make their own lives better without understanding their connection to the land or the people they were exploiting. It is intertwined with America's original sin of slavery. Everything existed to make those people wealthy. Now, the native people of this land were not perfect, but they understood themselves as embedded into the land and not separate from it. And most of the peoples here existed within an ethic of reciprocity, which is sometimes known as the honorable harvest. Within that ethic, they might hunt animals in order to survive, but they understood that the deer or the woodchuck or the rabbit that they killed was their brother, and that there was some give and take in that relationship. They cared for the land, they cared for the animals, and they respected their right to exist and thrive as well as their own. All of life was intertwined and linked together. And when you collected wild rice from your canoe, you allowed a good portion to fall into the water to sow new plants for next year. And when you collected sap for sugar or syrup, you cared for the tree and did not take too much so as to harm the tree, to allow it to continue growing and thriving. And there was this understanding of living within the body of nature, being part and parcel of earth and not separate on top of it or over and above it. As Unitarian Universalists, we speak to this understanding in our seventh principle, in our affirmation of the interconnected web of being of which we are all a part. But I think for a lot of this is an intellectual understanding. It's something that I perceive in my head, but I don't intuitively feel in my body. I don't intuitively feel that I am Earth. I've grown up and been socialized in our Western version of what it means to be live and real. And even though I'm trying really hard, I'm trying to find myself in the landscape, the womb, the body of our earthen home. I try things by walking daily, by meditating in nature, by planting and tending the green earth. I do all those things and still have not brought that awareness into my body. So can you imagine all the people with no connection at all? So many of us have been sold this incredible bill of goods that if we keep just buying stuff, that stuff will somehow make us happy. But you know what? We've been buying for a long time and we are not happy. In fact, most have this deep sense of unease, of separation from life. And it's a terrible feeling. If you've ever stood outside the edge of a group of people who were enjoying themselves and weren't invited in, you felt that anguish. If you've ever not been invited to the big party or left out of some shared story, you felt it. If you have ever longed for a connection to something deeper and richer and more relevant than your own small life, you felt that. It's a awful, hungry experience of being left out and rejected and feeling unworthy. And I believe with all my heart that this is the experience of too many people in our country these days. It explains the towards our last president's cult of personality, because being part of a cult means at least you're part of something. You're not excluded. Because isolation, the isolation that people have been feeling, that sense of disconnection and separation, while exacerbated by the pandemic, has been there for a long time. It's a product of the industrial age, which separates us into these little discrete units that are all put together to create wealth for somebody. And it was supposed to be fixed by the age of information that was supposed to connect us to one another. But yet, all of those thousands of millions of cyberspace connections have allowed many of us to simply feel that we are being left out of an even bigger party. Everybody knows what's going on except for me. This is not how humans are supposed to live or feel. From our earliest, we existed in small family groupings of, 5 to 20 people, pods or tribes where everybody knew everybody else. And your business might be the top of a conversation for the whole group, but at least you knew you had a place. Original humans were not separate from the landscape out of which they'd arisen, but deeply, physically, spiritually, and emotionally connected. It wasn't the earth. It was land in which we walked and lived and breathed, unable to even imagine being disconnected. And as beings grown up from the dust of our earthen mother, we could no more be separate from the land than we could be separated from our own bodies. This connection could be imagined as that mythical Garden of Eden, the place where our hearts know is true, where we long for without having the words to say it out loud. This myth undergirds Western concepts of reality in saying that we have been expelled from the garden, that we are not of or included in primordial earth. We are outside of that which is whole and real. We are on the outside. This is a destructive myth because it makes us outsiders from our very lives. In describing the work of a climate activist named John Seed, a Buddhist teacher named Joanna Macy tells of his experience which changed their understanding of his work. John says, in the midst of a conflict with loggers, with nothing between, that's John, this is Joanna says, in the midst of conflict with nothing between their bodies, between the loggers and the trees, John suddenly had an experience of knowing deeply and clearly who he really was. He said, I felt rooted in all life, in the primordial cradle of existence, end quote. Joanna says that John's story grabbed her attention because the activists were not winning the battle against deforestation. She says it's clear that even if the activists won every battle they waged, they would not make a dent. But she said John saw this with total realism and yet kept giving his life to the work. Joanna asked him, how do you deal with the despair? He answered, that week of protest, I had a realization of who I really was. It wasn't John Seed protecting the rainforest. It was the rainforest protecting herself through the humanity that she had cradled into life, end quote. The rainforest protecting herself using humans and as an extension of her beingness. This was a profound way of experience that interconnected web of life of which we are a part. Joanna continues, if we could feel the earth acting through us, if we could experience being held in a power greater than our own, it would change everything. We would feel graced, end quote. Graced, connected, not alone or isolated, not left out of what is real, but fully engaged and immersed in the most important thing we possibly could be connected with, life. Now, how can any of us make this shift? How can we go from experiencing ourselves as outside the garden into being living extensions of the garden herself? How do we reclaim our birthright in a society that agrees that people who talk like that are pretty ridiculous? Most of us have grown up with the idea that land is a commodity. It's an it. It's something that we own or that we sell or that we gather. That progress is something which creates jobs and wealth for the captains of industry, and that's the most important thing that we should be paying attention to. No one wants to be seen as one of those nutball tree huggers disconnected from reality. But who is really disconnected from reality? I say it's those folks who spend their whole life toiling for that legal tender, leading lives of quiet desperation, feeling continually outside of and not enough, but never stop to question the assumptions upon which they're built their lives. They don't question the perspective which is killing every living thing on this earth, including us humans. Joanna Macy said, the most radical thing any of us can do at this time is to be fully present to what is happening in the world, meaning we have to let our hearts be broken open. in the face of overwhelming social and ecological crisis, despair can transform clarity of vision into constructive, collaborative action. Being broken open brings new ways of seeing the world and freeing us from the assumptions and the attitudes which we think are permanent, but which now threaten the community of life on earth. The path calls us to begin in a place of pain and despair. It's not pretty, it's not comfortable or inviting, and we know why so many people walk right by that path and go, nope, don't want to go there. But when you can step into that pain, you feel fully alive, and you can reclaim that deep connection to our core beingness. In her beautiful book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer describes the way of her Potawatomi people as one of reciprocity. She explains the concept of the honorable harvest as a way of being in reciprocal, generous, and mutually sustaining relationship with the whole of life. She writes, one of our responsibilities as human people is to find ways to enter into reciprocity with the more than human world. We can do it through gratitude, through ceremony, through land stewardship, science, art, and in everyday acts of practical reverence. This can be in a very simple act, like greeting the trees and birds when I go out each morning to pick up the newspaper at the end of the driveway. We can find our way back to the garden, but it involves giving up much of what we think we know is real or important. Because this dog-eat-dog, constant hamster wheel life doesn't serve any of us. Even the people making obscene amounts of money are still missing out on this most primal of connections, most primary. They think they're filling up that hole with wealth or with power and wonder why they still feel empty inside. Is it any wonder that so many wealthy people end up being held in the throes of addiction? They've gotten it all and they're still not happy. Potawatomi people say that real wealth is the ability to give everything you have away. And it's that generosity which connects us both to the world and to the people around us. If we can make that leap, that transformative leap from thinking we are part of an independent web into knowing it in our bodies, we suddenly understand that we are not giving away anything, that everything is part and parcel of our planet consciousness, our earth body, that we can't lose or gain anything because we are the planet herself. Who could feel lost enough to go killing their fellow humans if they understood that each one of those people, each one of those innocents that they're pointing a gun at are part of their very own being, that they are totally connected, they are embedded in life, they are wanted and loved and needed and embraced? Where would the angst and the desperation come from if we could all live from that space? It is a long cry from where we are right now, but if we're to survive, we have to be the ones to begin this shift in consciousness. We have to find ways to see what is actually happening and then gather into supportive groups to support one another in consciously changing how we live, in transforming ourselves from people who walk on top of the earth to people who are earth and who understand our interconnection so deeply and so completely that we can reimagine every aspect of our life, figuring out what it might look like to live in right relationship with the more than human, right relationship with our earth mother. Now we can focus on our despair, on the enormity of the problem, and turn away from the pain. But that doesn't serve us. That just keeps us in the same horrific rut that we are just going towards, down and down and down. In order to change anything, we have to be present to the destruction and the horror of what we have done to ourselves. And then only from that place of honest engagement can we change ourselves. And changing ourselves is changing the world. John Seed reported, in that moment, I knew who I was. And knowing fueled everything he did. When we are grounded in who we are, we live whole lives, and we can see the whole of reality and how it contains incredible beauty along with incredible pain. And that when we can embrace all of that, we have the power and the strength that we need to change the course of our world. In 2 more weeks, our own Green Sanctuary team will bring their annual Earth Day celebration to the service. And we have a whole long list of things that we're going to be able to do to remember and to affirm our bodily connection to this earth. They have all kinds of great ideas to begin living in and through the earth instead of on its surface, instead of giving, instead of taking, that we'll be giving back. May each of us connect again to that ground of being in which we live and breathe and have our being, and remember that our connection in our bodies and hearts as well as in our minds. Today, start with a walk. Walk through the trees, through a forest, through your backyard. Breathe in the air, listen to the birds. Feel yourself as grounded in this amazing reality. Every step we take is one step closer to remembering who we truly are. Amen, and blessed be.
From Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. The guidelines for the honorable harvest are not written down or even consistently spoken of as a whole. They are reinforced in small acts of daily life. But if you were to list them, they might look something like this. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you, so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission before taking. Abide by the answer. Never take the first. Never take the last. Take only what you need. Take only which is given. Never take more than half. Leave some for others. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. And sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. Imagination is one of our most powerful tools. What we imagine, we can become. I like to imagine what it would be like if the honorable harvest were the law of the land today, as it was in our past. Imagine if a developer, eyeing open land for a shopping mall, had to ask the goldenrod, the meadowlarks, and the monarch butterflies for permission to take their homeland. What if he had to abide by the answer? Why not? I've heard it said that sometimes, in return for the gifts of the earth, gratitude is enough. It is our uniquely human gift to express thanks, because we have the awareness and the collective memory to remember that the world well could be otherwise, less generous than it is. But I think we are called to go beyond cultures of gratitude, to once again become cultures of reciprocity. I met Carol Crow, an Algonquin ecologist, at a meeting on indigenous models of sustainability. She told the story of requesting funding from her tribal council to attend the conference. They asked her, "What is this all about, this notion of sustainability? What are they talking about?" She gave them a summary of the standard definitions of sustainable development, including the management of natural resources and social institutions in such a manner as to ensure the attainment and continued satisfaction of human needs for present and future generations. They were quiet for a while, considering. Finally, one elder said, "This sustainable development sounds to me like they just want to be able to keep on taking like they always have. It's always about taking." You go there and tell them that in our way, our first thoughts are not, what can we take? But what can we give to Mother Earth? That's how it's supposed to be. The Honorable Harvest asks us to give back in reciprocity for what we have been given. Reciprocity helps resolve the moral tension of taking a life by giving in return something of value that sustains the ones who sustain us. One of our responsibilities as human people is to find ways to enter into reciprocity with the more than human world. We can do it through gratitude, through ceremony, through land stewardship, science, art, and in everyday acts of practical reverence.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat
Our closing benediction, it comes from A Wild Love for the World by Joanna Macy. We are longing to come home to the sacredness of our belonging to the living body of earth, but we can't do it alone. Just hearing the news of what's happening each day on the planet, I can't handle all of it alone, and I'm not supposed to. Even looking requires we reach out to each other and take each other's arms, and I can tell you how I feel and you will listen. And you can tell me how you feel and I will listen. The very steps we need to take bring us relief, reward, the whole point of it, which is our collective nature, our non-separateness, because this is the only thing which can save us. Today, take a breath. Remember your connection with the whole of this earth and celebrate Earth Day. Blessings.